Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Explode Your Expert Business Show. I'm here with the one and only Jim J. Doyle. How you doing, Jim?
Very well, Simone. It's my pleasure to be on this podcast. Thank you.
You've been already here on the show. So, guys, make sure you check in the directory Jim J. Doyle so you can listen also to the other episode that we have recorded. But today is going to be a bit more personal. We're going to get to know Jim a bit more. So, I want to start. Let's start with the easier questions here. A bit more about what you do right now and what kind of work you do, Jim.
Okay, well, I can tell you that the official thing is that I work with established entrepreneurs and business leaders to help them get from a plateau they may have hit onto the next level. Because I've been through many plateaus myself, and some of them are a little bit wacky, but bear with me, because as you know personally, I'm not an electronics engineer anymore. So I grew up on a farm in Ireland and ended up, instead of going down conventional route of being perhaps a Catholic priest or a farmer or something like that, I said, I want to be an electronics engineer. What's that? Anyway, to be fair, I ended up working at probably the highest level high-tech consultancy in Cambridge. Some years later, which was real wow. And I then worked for a spy company, literally, based in London and traveling to the Middle East. But there was always this deeper sort of spiritual, sort of energetic, psychic side to me. Lots of smaller things as a child, but in my early 20s, I was on holiday in Jersey with a girlfriend. My parents kind of went, weren't too keen on. And this is quite a while ago, well before your time. And I had this real flash during the night. I woke up and my father was shouting in distress and there was flames. And I thought, what? And those were the days way before mobile phones. You literally, international operator, phone up the local shop to find out what was going on. And my parents' house had been burnt down the night before. And unfortunately, my brother and my parents escaped, luckily. Well, that was a big shock for me because although I was intuitive and knew about things like that, that was really full on. And that was a moment of note, I think is the phrase.
Yeah.
And so I had this kind of intuitive aspect, always interested in not necessarily healing, bit of weird stuff mixed in with electronics and technology. Nikola Tesla, my hero, But and then I was stopping working for a spy company. No, I wasn't a spy, and I came back to Cambridge, joined another high-tech company, ended up as research manager, etc., made redundant, ran my own electronics business for years, and becoming more questions. And so I had a young family growing up and lots of questions coming up. So I had a few people working for me, but inside I was really uncomfortable. And when I look back, I know that I was screaming inside, but I couldn't hear the scream.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And around about the millennium, I had a minor bent finger problem, a little health issue, which went to a consultant. He said, "Oh yes, you have Dupuytren's contracture." You are. Didn't like his proposals, which were not very elegant. I went to a Mind, Body, Soul exhibition, and I had a real wake-up call there. I spoke to this lady, told her about my bent finger, and she said, it's usually connected to the back of your heart. Okay, right. I didn't know that bit was connected to that bit. She ran her hand down my back about this far away, and I felt chi, energy, for the first time, and it scared the hell out of me. Because I didn't know what was happening. And I ended up having some healing sessions with them here in Cambridge. A lot of really wacky stuff came up, which was ancestral. And I then got to the end of a expensive, complex scenario with them. I went to an introductory weekend on energy healing. And then I knew by Saturday night I had to do a 3-year course. What? I'm self-employed. I'm not full of money. But when you start a journey and you got one step and you've no idea where it's going.
Yeah.
Well, I was on that one. And one of my first clients, homework practice, was somebody with balance problems and double vision for over 10 years. I'm doing things by the numbers, like do this. I'm halfway through and the double vision's gone. Like, that was really scary.
Yeah.
Because it brought up sort of deeper Catholic stuff, and there's
In
these
fact,
things.
that's what I would love to what I would love to start from,
Sure.
because now we have a bit of definitely have a lot of talking points, a lot of questions that I have for you. So let's talk about the upbringing. You said traditional Catholic. How did how was it? How did you feel about being brought up in that way? Were you just like a straight believer, not questioning anything, or were you full of questions? You couldn't find answer. Where were you? How was your experience there?
With the benefit of hindsight, I was definitely not a happy bunny, because I found relatively recently, a few years ago, that I was doing lots of things. I was busy in my life and so on. I was really, frustrated. And my wife said to me, she said, "Why don't you celebrate?" And I went, "I don't like celebrating." And I realized that celebration to me was a negative thing. Really, I had a negative meaning about celebration.
Okay, why?
Because you will go and celebrate Mass.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a positive experience.
Yeah.
Ever. So it was like I was brought up in that to me was contradictory. Celebration was supposed to be joyful, but it certainly didn't feel it. Not to me. And I spent 5 years in Catholic boarding school, and which was not all terrible, but it certainly wasn't all positive.
Yeah.
And so I found that. So back to the question: was I a believer? Within the social confines, I suppose, yes, but in reality, I wasn't. So
Right.
So there was lots of fear on there. There was lots of, hell and damnation kind of in between level. So you're bouncing between these two levels. You probably know there's a similar thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's reality? How can somebody, well, okay, I'm putting my adult bit on this, but how can somebody love you and go, you're dead?
So how did that shape you growing up, having been brought up in that environment?
Well, a friend of mine, a flatmate of mine, once described me as the most incorruptible person he'd ever known. I was like, wow, I mean, seriously, and that was a moment of like, really? What? Okay. And so I had lots of really good values that weren't not necessarily religious based. Yeah. But that was really important to me. And integrity is really, people's integrity is really important to me now. And so I had lots of conflicting values. And as I went through my really deep 3 years of energy healing work, I found an awful lot of conflicting beliefs, buried beliefs just under the surface that I had. We all do. We all have them. Mine weren't particularly special. Some of them are pretty serious, having a rant upstairs and things like that. And the other thing was, not specifically Catholic, but about being Irish. When I came to Cambridge when I was 21, for me, England was this sort of bad place, it was like, because England sort of stomped all over Ireland a few times. And even hundreds of years later, there's a lot of folk songs and grievance and things going on. Yeah. And when I came here, it was, especially in Cambridge, it was so multicultural then compared to pretty much anywhere, certainly Ireland, which was 99.9% Irish people. Yeah, came in, there's people from all over the world. You never know where they're from. They probably speak 6 or 7 languages. Goodness knows. I don't even know what the PhD is about, just a title. And for me, it was like, magic, all this amazing range of people. I just loved it.
So going to the engineering kind of years. So you said that that's not something that at that time Irish would do. Like no, it's not the stereotypical Irish person that would say, okay, I'm going just to move and study engineering. I don't even know what engineering is, but I'm going to create a career around that. So let's talk about when you first started into engineering. How was that experience for you?
Well, when I was at boarding school, so I would have been 15 to 17, I'd read some magazines, and we had somebody there who was moderately interested. And the sort of old transistor radios, I knew them inside out and how they worked and all the aspects. And I used to read books on, oh my goodness, high intensity magnetic fields, which happened to be lying in the sort of the old library in the glass case that nobody opened. I did a project on, I digress, on vitamin C. We didn't have a chemistry class. But I was actually highly commended in Young Scientist of the Year back then. And for me, it was about exploring, about understanding. There were so many aspects, so many things. There was something about electricity that was rather special. And I remember we'd had the electricity installed for a while, and I was lying in bed one morning, real good thunderstorm coming down, and there was a lightning flash. And there was literally an explosion in the hallway around the meter, and the dog disappeared for 2 days and eventually came back rather scared. And I think that might have been a formative moment that got me rather intrigued.
So in terms of the parallels, so I think that, sometimes the interest or fascination that we have, even when we are younger, they still are alive, maybe just in another shape or form when we grow older. So what can you see in terms of the interest that you have for technology, for engineering, influencing you in doing what you do now?
Oh, completely. Total overlap. So just to clarify, what I do is I'm very intuitive and, if you like, psychic. So if you told me about
you are. I know. I know you are. It's like, just for the listeners, sometimes I receive random messages. Hey, Simone, you should drink more water. Is that okay?
Based on fact, because
I know.
Because your cellular hydration at the time was really, really low.
I know.
And there is no available scientific way of accurately measuring it. And for those who say they're apps, they're rubbish. Okay? And trust me, or ask me, or argue with me, I'm happy with that. But what I do is I use engineering principles of logic, to work with soft skills. Yeah. So in other words, if I'm working with you or I'm working with a client and they have a problem, what I do is I use soft skills in an engineering way, a logical way, of which is investigate, test, establish where the problem comes from, or rather when the problem comes from, work with the client to get some correlation so it makes sense to them and make sure that I'm not going off on some tangent. Then we do some energy work on it, clear it, and then test. The problem's fixed. So it's literally identify it, test and measure, work with it to fix the problem, and then double check the problem's really done. So I'm using that. And there's not many people out there in terms of the personal development and healing area who do that. And so the sort of things I measure are, amongst other things, integrity on occasion. But obviously they're not humidity, they're hydration level. We measure their hydration level, but all kinds of other things, and whether they're actually in their body, which is quite a common thing, by the way, that people are not fully in their body. So I measure all these things, their vitality, the vitality of specific parts of them, and then do some work with them and check what it is, and all the time working with them to see if it's changed. And same with their business.
So I can see definitely the parallel here. So then I want to just explore other parts of things that might have influenced you in doing the work and becoming who you are. Who was the person that you believe influenced you the most? It can be dead or alive. That influenced you the most in your life?
Strangely enough, my mum influenced me a lot, and various relatives. But one of the people that comes to mind when you ask that question is actually JFK, John F. Kennedy. Because this was during Cuban Missile Crisis and all these real heavy-duty stuff going on. But he actually came to my hometown because his family was from around there, and somebody in the school I was in supposedly shook hands with him and so on. And he was a man, we lived in everybody lived in a period of fear, but also it was a time.
What years? What year were those years?
So that he was shot in 63, I think it was.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
I'm not that good. I'm not that good with American history, but
it was around then. In fact, I believe they were showing a film that was supposed to be about him.
Yeah.
It was called PT 109. That'll get Wikipedia going, which is about his time in the Navy.
Right.
It was a patrol boat, and they're actually showing that in the cinema when he was assassinated, and they stopped the film.
Okay. Wow.
And so he was a man of integrity. He also said, we're going to go to the moon. And he did. Yeah. So I think I'd have to say he was one of the people. I didn't expect to come up with this answer, but it feels right.
So why is that?
Oh, gosh. He was a man of vision, a man of integrity. The bad guys shot him for being a good guy. A whole bunch of things like that. From my perception now. Yeah. There's a lot of other things that I'm aware of, but back then he would have made a significant impression on me.
And what did inspire you to do?
Well, I'll add somebody else to that list. There was a neighbor. When the animals on the farm got sick, sometimes there was a particular problem they'd have. It's not very elegant. I won't mention it. And we didn't have the medicines for them, and they were known to die quite fast. There was a man down the road who would go and speak to George, and George would come along, find that hoof print in the ground, dig it up, turn it over, and say some kind of silent prayer over it. And usually they got well, just like that.
Wow.
So I guess that's another one.
Yeah. Which you can already see what that inspired you to do.
So there's the electricity. And I remember being very small, and there was a man came with a truck delivering gravel or something, and it wouldn't start, and he got underneath to fix something with his spanner, and I was crawling in beside him, and he did something stupid, and there was sparks flying everywhere out of it, because he's obviously shorted the battery. I know this now. And I guess that inspired me as well. So you bring those combination of things together, and you have the energy and the electricity and the electronics, plus communications. For me, I used to listen on shortwave to Radio Switzerland and things. I used to have the sound of a ticking watch. But shortwave listening around the world, that was, to me, was reaching out. That there was more out there that I needed to get to, that I needed to understand and connect to, and that's what I do now.
That's
fascinating. My background on here, my world map, has got blue dots on.
In fact, that was my you read my mind. That was my next question. That was my next question. It was actually my next question. Okay, so for those of you that are, just before we go on, for those of you that are listening, that are not watching, you can go to our website. There is the link in the show notes with the actual link of this episode, and you can see the video, so then you can see actually the word map behind Jim if you're just listening. If you are already watching on YouTube or other platforms, then keep watching. All right, Jim, keep going.
So this is my map, which has evolved over a good few years, and all these blue dots represent places where I've worked with clients around the world, literally from Australia, Indonesia, Namibia, which is a place, Saudi Arabia, India, all around Europe, and then over here we have Canada, States, South America, and even Central Mexico.
Wow. Now you got clients literally everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. In fact, hang on a minute. I was speaking to one the other day in Norway. I must put a blue dot on there.
We need to put a blue dot in Norway. Talking about okay, let's go to sticking with the word map. What's the place that you visited that had the biggest impact in your life?
Ah, gosh. America, no. Okay, I did no, America, not really. One moment, I have to think about that. Yes, during my Middle Eastern tours, I traveled around Jordan and Oman and various other places, some in the news or some out of the news now. They made a big impression on me. Actually, you know what? Recently, I went to Malta.
Okay.
I went to Malta and we wanted to see, I particularly wanted to, and my wife's quite interested as well, in seeing the ancient temples and literally feeling the vibe of them. And it was fascinating. It was amazing. Malta, there's something very special about it. And Gozo, that little island off the north, it's timeless. It's incredible. It's like you go there and stuff happens at a different pace in a hard way to measure. It's not like it's all quiet and slow. It literally feels timeless to me, whatever that means to you. Yeah, it's very, very strange, very curious, very nice. Actually, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and so what did you learn from that experience?
I know where I like to go. So how we usually choose our holidays. Somewhere I've got a video. I don't know if it's listed on YouTube at the moment, but that was in Lanzarote. We went there, and so my wife looked down these various places and said, "Oh, there's all these places I don't know." I said, "Okay, let me see. Hang on." It's a bit like so doing my muscle testing.
Yeah.
Look at number 7 down. Okay, we ended up going to number 7, and the video I did it's about a mile from the coast and up north, well outside any town, obviously, because there's too much vibe and noise in towns. And I'm sitting outside this place doing a video, and there's a statue of Buddha and some concrete spotted cows behind me. That was outside the front of the place, which didn't show on the online thing. Lovely area, lovely energy, a nice little hill to walk up and watch the sunrise in the morning, and beautiful place. It was absolutely perfect. It doesn't have to be. Have to be 5-star. It just needs to be the right place.
The right place, absolutely. Okay, I got a few more questions before we wrap up. By the way, I'll love this interview. I'm having a great time here. Is there a book that you think everyone on the planet should read?
I don't know about everybody, but a high proportion of people should.
Okay, why not everybody?
Because some of them might freak out.
Okay. it's to preserve that.
It's called Hands of Light by Barbara Ann Brennan, who was supposedly a NASA scientist and started doing a lot of healing work. And there's lots of images in there about auras and things like that. And it goes a bit deep, but it can give you some very good insight as well. And as a starting point. And that was a significant one for me. There's lots of others as well, but that's a sort of reference point.
Brilliant. Hands of Light, and the author
Hands
again?
Of Light. Yeah, I can grab a copy and show it to you. I think
that's all right. Hands of Light, and the author again?
Barbara Ann Brennan, Brennan.
Brilliant. So guys, make sure you can check out this book. Okay, Jim, one last question. Is there something that I didn't ask you, but I should have asked you?
What makes me tick, I suppose. Let me think. People are what's important. The energy of people. This morning I was out breakfast networking. I met some very interesting people there. I met some lovely people the other week. We might end up doing some work together. It so happens, I don't do this much usually, I'm going out to meet networking with about 150 people tonight, so which is a marketing one. But it's not for the marketing, it's for the people. I'm going to see who I meet and catch up with some existing contacts. Brilliant.
So if you want to get to know Jim, you know that he likes people. So invite him somewhere where there are good people around. All right, Jim, thank you very much for this interview. I had an incredible time. For the listeners that want to get in touch with you and they might need also some support, maybe because they have some blockages on a spiritual level or emotional level that they want to unblock, where is the best place to get hold of you?
On social media, Jim J. Doyle is where I'm most active. My website is differentlight.org. which I'm about to update shortly. But primarily, I'm most active generally on Facebook. I did 30 odd Facebook Lives back a few months ago, which I'm now digging up some more and restarting a new program shortly.
Brilliant. So Jim J. Doyle on Facebook or different social media, or the website again? Different light.
So it's like see yourself in a different light. So it's different light, all one word, .org.
differentlight.org. All right, perfect, guys. Make sure you get there. There are going to be the social media links and the website also in the show notes, so you can just scroll down and connect with Jim straight away. I highly recommend you at least to follow him on the different social media platform, or if you feel inspired to have a conversation with him, is definitely well worth it. Jim, thank you very much for being on the show. Thank you for being part of the GTeX family. It has been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Simone. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this new format with the interviews that we are doing with our GTeX members. Let me know also in the comment or send me an email at simone@gtex.org.uk. Letting me know also what kind of question you would like me to ask to the guests and to the other GTeX members that are going to be part of this series. Also, make sure you subscribe right now if you haven't subscribed already. And until next episode, remember that together we grow exponentially. Ciao!